Hello everyone, welcome to Motivations. I'm your host Janet Miranda. On today's theme, we will be discussing purposeful living. When we live with purpose, we are said to live happily and never feel like we've worked a day in our life. According to Pacific Standard, PSMAG, an online publication, researchers have found a strong link between living one's life with a sense of purpose and enjoying a robust immune system. According to NHS.UK, they discuss a detailed study with a conclusion found an association between people who felt that they've had a purposeful life and a reduced risk of death. TheAtlantic.com, another online publication, states that medical professionals have found correlations between a person's sense of purpose and their physical health and survival. As far back as 1946, the Austrian physiatrist Viktor Frankl, who by the way spent several years in concentration camps during World War II and unfortunately lost his entire family in the Holocaust, he found that in the people who survived the concentration camps best were those who actually believed that they had a reason, a mission, or a purpose, and that is what required their survival. Speaking of survival and living our day-to-day, most of us are required to go to work so that we can survive, but in the US alone, 70% of people working are just simply unhappy, and some of them don't even care about what they do. Millennials are said to be the most unfulfilled and care least about what work they actually do. That is an enormously squandered potential and a lot of misdirected minds and many unhappy people. Just think about the positive impact that these people can have and make in the world if they started doing something that they value. Huffington Post gave us 3 tips to keep in mind. 1. Focus more intently on your passion and on your purpose in life, living and doing the meaningful work that gives you the necessary drive to keep going. And invest your resources into building something that you're proud of, something that you want to share with the world. 2. Develop skills and knowledge in the service of your passion. Think about what it is that you're passionate about and learn all about it. Learning is the secret to your mind's eternal youth and the honored mystery of the alchemist. 3. Understand the difference between pain and suffering. Choose the process that brings you joy and not endless regrets. Many of us heard the saying, if you pursue your passion, you won't ever feel like you've worked a day in your life. And that is because you're doing what brings you meaning, what brings you fulfillment, and what you're passionate about. Becoming conscious in finding our meaning to our day-to-day can give us more energy and just make us happier people, raising the vibration all around. So let's together uncover some of these wellness practices and let's help us provide more pleasure to ourselves, raising the vibration every single day, which is exactly why we here at Motivations are so excited to chat about this situation with our next guest, who's going to give us her experience and the meaning of living her purpose. Let's bring on our next guest now. Hi everyone, welcome to Motivations TV. I'm Janet Miranda, your host, and so excited to chat with our next guest. She's a director, a writer, a producer, a creator, a coach, and most importantly, she's a woman who's living with purpose on purpose. Not only is she an international award-winning director who's worked in theater and film and television for over 3 decades, she's now applying her expertise to the art of public speaking. She's an executive producer of Speakers Who Dare and former executive producer of TEDx Lincoln Square in New York City. She curates the Speaker Salon in New York City, which is an incubator and showcase for emerging speakers, giving them the opportunity to get in front of influencers, event organizers, television producers, and TEDx organizers who put them onto the big stage. She's worked on so many projects, including Black Box on ABC, The Affair on Showtime, Rescue Me on Fox, and she's worked with a lot of great talent, including James Gandolfini, Susan Sarandon, Kate Winslet, Christopher Walken, Eddie Izzard, Stephen Buscemi. I mean, I can just keep going, but I think you guys get it. This woman is a multi-award winning director, producer, writer, and documentary television film, web show, and podcast media maker. And she was awarded Top Director of 2019 by the International Association of Top Professionals. This guest talks about people implementing incredible things and strives to make the world a better place. And when we ask her, what are her goals and how does she ultimately go about it? She wraps around by saying she just lives with her purpose. And she's all about living in her purpose, and her goals, they all follow that vision. Let's introduce this exceptional treasure of a human being, Tricia Brouk. Hey guys, it's Janet Miranda with Motivations TV. We have a special guest here for you guys today, Tricia Brouk. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Janet, I am so excited to be here with you today. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're really grateful to have you on the show. Tricia Brouk from New York City, doing so many things, showing up in the world in such magical ways. Let's chat a little bit about how you're showing up in the world and what you're doing. But first, a little history about who you are for the world.
I moved to New York City 3 decades ago from Arnold, Missouri. I had a big dream of moving to the big city so that I could pursue a career in dance. And that's all I thought about. I went to dancing school, I went to school, got good grades, and when I was 20 years old, I got on a plane and moved to New York. And it was my big dream. I loved living here. I loved the city and the energy. I got a job waiting tables, just like all artists do. And I toured around the world dancing and pursuing my dream. And I realized partway through my career that my impact was limited to the number of people in the theater and the length of the dance that I was performing. And I realized that I wanted to leave a lasting legacy and that I was limited if I was just going to stay a dancer. So I moved from being a dancer into being a producer, writer, director. And I realized that I could change the world by creating theater, by making movies, by giving people inspiring stories to tell. And that is what led me to this point in my life.
Trish, why do you want to change the world?
That's such a big question, Janet. I want to change the world because I have one life and I am meant to help people tell their stories so that those stories can be heard by someone who needs to hear it so that their life can be changed or even saved. And I do believe that one story at a time, we can actually create global connection and increase humanity together.
Well, I can't wait to chat about some of the things that you're doing and what you're doing. But first, you said something really key. You said that you're meant to do this. What makes you feel like you're meant to do this? And how did you find your true purpose in what it is that you're doing?
3 years ago, a friend of mine reached out and said, I'm doing a TEDx. I want you to direct it. And I thought, that sounds super fun, just like a one-woman show. I'll work with you on intention. I'll work with you on your script. We'll do script analysis, blocking, choreography. And she had such a powerful and inspiring idea that she was sharing that I realized I had an opportunity to elevate the world by helping people, thought leaders, tell their very important messages. And I realized, oh, all of a sudden I have all these speakers now who've come into my life and no place to put them. Well, as a theater producer, what's the best thing that I can do is put on a show. What's the best show for speakers? TEDx. So I became the executive producer of TEDx Lincoln Square in New York City, produced 2 years of shows, and realized that the kind of impact these speakers were having on the world was epic. And that is when I knew that I had stepped into my purpose fully. It is when I realized that I could make a ripple effect, go out into the world of goodness, of authenticity, of integrity and dignity by helping one speaker at a time.
What's the feeling for you when you are fully immersed in your work and really truly helping someone tell their story? What is it that you, Tricia Brouk, feel when this is all evolving into something fabulous?
It's almost the same feeling that I have now talking with you, Janet. It is about communicating and articulating and feeling so connected to somebody in a way that you can share, exchange ideas, communicate with the world for the purpose of making the world a better place. And I know that's what you do here. The feeling is a knowing, the feeling is a consistency, it is a humble feeling, it is an egoless space of we're doing this together for the greater good.
Tricia, what are some of the topics that were covered in some of the TEDx talks? And I know you said you had 2 years worth, so just give us like maybe 4 or 5 that you've really felt really impacted the world in some way.
Well, there's 2 that I can speak of that were the most powerful for me in that process. And one was an incredible speaker who came to me with an idea of talking about rare eye disease. She has 3 children and 2 were born blind, and she wanted to share this important message. And what we realized was it's not about rare eye disease. Her talk is actually about how she learned to see the world differently through the eyes of her children. Another speaker who is an incredible speaker, she spoke about forgiveness. And what was so powerful about her talk was it was not only about forgiveness. She shared a very personal story about her mother and her brother being murdered on Christmas Eve. And she was able, because she was healed, she was able to share the very vulnerable story in a way that taught us about forgiveness, but also how to forgive. And I think that those 2 messages are so important because when we learn to see through the eyes of others, we have instantaneous empathy and we can connect as human beings. And when we learn how to forgive, when we actually understand how to do that and not just that we're supposed to, we can release what is actually violence towards self. When you don't forgive someone, you're being violent toward yourself. So again, back to global connection.
It's fascinating. It's an incredible journey that you take with each of these people that really want to tell their story.
It's
And
very intimate.
yeah, I mean, it's a very, could you share a little bit about what your process is like when you first get your clients to come and chat with you about their story to production?
Oh, I love that journey. When speakers come to me, they oftentimes believe they have their idea and they're ready to tell that story. And my process is asking a bunch of questions and getting very, very intimate, having the vulnerability exchange happen. And this comes from directing. It's my job to create a safe space so that my actors show up fully and they're willing to take risks in the room. It's the same thing with my speakers. I create a safe space so they can actually share the really deep stuff. And during that conversation is when I will actually excavate from their brains what the idea actually is. For example, the speaker that I just mentioned, she wanted to talk about rare eye disease. But when I began to ask her questions, we realized it's much bigger than that. So once I get the idea to become formed, fully formed, then we massage the idea. We begin to massage it and generate content. And then once we have some content, we work through what I call objective and action. And this is the acting part. And this is a technique that actors use all the time. You know how to do this, Janet. And that is, human beings do it all the time as well. You have to know what you want, what you're going after in a scene with a partner. And you have to play a certain action in order to get it. So for example, if you want your partner, your spouse, your roommate to take out the trash, that's the objective. That's what you want. How are you going to get them to do it? You are unknowingly acting. You are playing a scene every single time. Beg, ask, pay, nag. Those are the actions that you play in order to get your scene partner or your audience to do what you want. So we go from idea mining to massaging that idea to create the content into the performance, which is learning how to go after what you want and to get it from an audience. So you may want them to nod their heads yes, because they love what you're saying. How are you going to get them to do that? Entertain, inspire, motivate, educate. You could also just wait.
Amazing, incredible journey. You mentioned something about having a safe space. Could we chat a little bit about that? What that means for those folks who are unfamiliar with this process? What does it mean to have a safe space? And how do you go about creating that atmosphere for your clients?
It's really about listening, coming in without the ego, observing what they need in the moment and giving them what they need in the moment. Many times speakers will come in and they will have an armor up. I'm going to tell my story. I've got a very important idea. Here's what it is. Here's how I see it happening. And I will let them go through all the pomp and circumstance until we get to the place where they're actually being real with me. So it's about allowing people to be exactly where they are in the moment, meeting them where they are, and then gently pulling back so that they come toward me, and together we are in this environment where they can create this incredible talk.
Incredible. And part of your process and pathway to getting people to tell their stories, also creating a real sense of authenticity. And I guess this is part of how you start nibbling away at that. Now, why is it so important for a storyteller to be authentic in their path of telling the story?
You've seen people on stage many times, and you may actually believe in what they're saying. You may actually agree with what they're saying, but there's a disconnect. There's a thing in the way of you trusting them. And that is because they're not being authentic. We can't identify what it is all the time, but it's a feeling. I don't really trust this person. I don't know why. And that's because they're putting on some sort of coat of who they're trying to be. They're trying to be someone else. They're not being themselves. They're being someone else, or who they think the audience wants them to be. So when a speaker takes the stage, I always say the idea, the story is the lead. You are the conduit. You are the medium. You're the person sharing the story, but you must lead with the story. It's never about the speaker. And that is how you stay authentic. It's not about perfection. It's not about playing a role, although I do require memorization with most of my speakers so that they get past that moment, through that threshold, so that they can be playful with the audience. It's knowing who you are and being willing to be criticized. That is so key. You are on a stage. You have to be willing to be criticized and stay authentic at all times.
Well, that's very strong. Let's talk about criticism for a moment. Nobody really wants to be criticized. So when you are critiquing your speakers, are you doing this in a gentle way, or are you finding your way depending on who it is that you're coaching?
I have a very gentle way of giving feedback, and it starts with the positive always. I love this part of what you're doing and why. Have you ever considered this? Would you be willing to try this? So I ask them questions in order to get them to think differently so that they can actually release the bad habits or release what's not working. So it's really about asking them to think differently about a certain way they're moving, way they're speaking, rather than saying, I really don't want you to do this. You know, as an actor, as soon as a director says, don't do this, it's all you want to do.
So you're really stretching these people out of their comfort zone into a place where their stories are unique and real and authentic. And speaking of stretching, you've really stretched yourself in this process into service, into your community. And we'd love to know a little bit about what it is that you're doing with your community right now and why you got into it.
I'm from New York City. We're in the hot spot right now of COVID-19. And on March 25th, I was planning to launch the Big Talk Academy, which is a 12-week virtual speaker coaching training. And it wasn't something that felt right for me in that moment. So what I did instead was I offered an application to apply for a full scholarship to the Academy. 40 people applied for the scholarship, and I gave 40 people a full scholarship. Wow. So what I want to do right now, which is so important, is lead with gratitude. I am so grateful that I have this opportunity to provide a place for people to to connect, to come in community, and they have purpose. They are actually working on their big talk right now. So not only do they have my support, they have the support of one another. They know where they're showing up every day, and they have something to do and to look forward to. So for me, stepping into my role as leader is game on. It is so important for me to lead my community and to remind them that it's all about gratitude, innovation, creativity, and empathy.
Now let's talk about innovation for a minute. You really had to turn things around and really create something very new that was even very new for you. Could we chat a little bit about that?
Yes. March 24th was supposed to be Speakers Who Dare, one of my live speaking events that I produce in New York City. Way back in September, 22 speakers were chosen. They worked on their talks for months and months and months. I had Broadway dancers, Broadway performers, musicians. Everybody was cast. Everybody was ready to go. March 10th, Broadway closed. Everything happened very quickly in New York City, the hotspot. And I had to think on my feet. So the first thing I did was remove the audience, gave everybody a full refund. I thought I'll bring in 20 speakers, a small crew, it'll be fine. We'll live stream the event. Things kept unfolding, lots of uncertainty in New York City. So I went out for a walk on Sunday. This was maybe the 13th or 14th. And I had to really dig deep, and I had to remove my ego from the conversation completely, because my ego could have gotten in the way of the decision-making process. What is important here? What is important here? And I kept asking, what is important here? The safety of the speakers, and the diversity of the speakers, and the diversity of the messages. The world needs to hear their messages now more than ever. How do I make that all happen? Okay, I'll keep all the speakers at bay. Nobody's coming to New York. I'll give them individual direction. They'll each make mini movies of their talk. Send me the footage. I'll cut together a feature film, and we'll live stream the feature film. And that's what we did on March 24th.
That's what I call a real innovator during this time of chaos. I mean, you recreated the entire platform, and you were still able to get the storytellers, the speakers together in a way that they couldn't have done without you. And that's all for showing up into your community in marvelous, magical ways, but also following your purpose, following your path, your North Star.
Absolutely. And it's another reminder that it's never about us. When we are in alignment and we're clear on our purpose, it is about service, it's about support, it's not about us, just like speaking.
And it's interesting to me that you were very selective in ensuring that there was a good amount of diversity in your projects. And this isn't the first time that you're being fully aware of diverse ramifications and ensuring that there's a diverse amount of people that are involved in your projects. Could we talk a little bit about how diversity is important to you?
Absolutely. I am an advocate for humanity, and diversity is incredibly important to me. And I'm very conscious of having conversations about diversity. I'm very conscious about having conversations about race. I think it is our responsibility to be having these conversations and to be listening to one another, because there is a very, very systemic problem in this country. So all of my speaker events are diverse in speakers and ideas and topics. I recently produced the Big Talk Roundtable, a conscious conversation about race, where I brought in my African American and Asian American colleagues so that we could talk about what's going on right now. And it was such a powerful conversation. And one of the things that I learned, which was so impactful to me as a woman of white privilege, is that I need to earn the role of ally. Just because I believe in diversity does not mean that I step into the role of ally. I must earn that role. And that is something that I learned from this conversation that I will forever take with me. It's so powerful.
Can you share a little bit about what you mean about learn, you know, how to, what does that mean?
In my conversation, the conscious conversation with the Big Talk Roundtable on race, people of color assume everyone is against them. They are other. So we have to earn the role as ally. We can't just assume they believe they're our ally. And that was something I had never considered before. So I think it's really important that, okay, I know this now, I'm sharing this now so that other people can be aware of this now. When you are other, and Nydia, one of the speakers, spoke about this. She said, I always feel other, but now I feel afraid. And that was such an incredible awareness. And so my responsibility to always be authentic and give that time, whoever I'm meeting, so that I earn the role of ally. I earn the role of friend. I earn the role of colleague.
That's interesting and very authentic from your experience in this project that you worked on. Can you share a little bit about what your vision is for the next 6 months of Tricia Brouk's life?
It's pretty big. I am currently editing together the Big Talk Over Dinner, a 6-part television series where I invited 5 people to have dinner with me. We shot this a while ago, and each episode covers different topics: immigration, race, gender, religion, marriage, and entertainment, all things important, of course. And I'm also considering producing another feature film speaker event. That's very exciting. And I'm also currently working on a potential docu-review on the Gershwins.
Wow, that sounds like exciting. You have a couple of projects to juggle. It feels like you're still in your purpose, doing things that you love, and really find your path in helping other people discover the language that they need to really get their messages out there. Must be a really rewarding process for yourself.
It's incredibly fulfilling and rewarding, and I am privileged, humbled, and honored every single day that I'm able to do this.
That's because you're Tricia Brouk, and we are Motivations TV, inspiring you guys to continue to live your best life, follow your North Star, follow your passion, find your purpose, do whatever it is that makes you happy, healthy, and living your best life. I'm Janet Miranda. This is Motivations TV. You guys, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so now. If you think that this message will help at least one other person, please do share this message with that person so that we can continue to evolve in our community in helping other people. I'm Janet Miranda, your host. This is Motivations TV. Stay tuned for more. Tricia, thank you so much for showing up with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet.